Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Greg Smith. I'm Executive Director of the Florida Literacy Coalition, and I'm pleased to welcome you today to our session on teaching vocabulary and pronunciation to adult English language learners. I'm joined by my colleague, Stephanie Rogers, our Education Training Coordinator here. And I think you're all in for a treat. This session is presented by Dr. Daisy Shah, who's a specialist in the Department of Adult and Community Education with the School District of Palm Beach County. Daisy's also an adjunct professor at Florida Atlantic University. She's presented to us several times in the past, has also presented regularly at ACE conference and for IPDAY and so forth, presented at our conference, which I'll give a quick plug here. I hope that you all be able to join us for our conference, Florida Literacy Conference, May 13th through 15th in Daytona Beach this year. So we'll put a little something in the chat on that, a link if you're interested. So this is a topic that is a high interest area for a lot of educators, and we're really happy to have you, Daisy, join us today. A quick shout out to the Florida Department of Education for their support to make this and most of our professional development opportunities that we offer here available. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Daisy.
Yes, right. Thank you, Greg. I'm happy to be here. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday, everyone. Like Greg mentioned, today's session is called Building Foundations, Teaching Vocabulary and Pronunciation to Adult English Language Learners. So greetings from sunny South Florida. It's a beautiful day out here today. And real quick, again, I am Daisy, joining you from Palm Beach County. Greg already told you I work as a specialist with the School District of Palm Beach County Department of Adult and Community Ed. I teach intensive English at Florida Atlantic University. So basically everything you're about to see today, it comes straight from the classroom. All right, so it's teacher tested and student approved. So thank you all for spending your time with me. Let's go ahead and get started.
And actually, one quick thing I forgot to mention, Daisy, is if people do have questions, please do add those to the chat. We'll be monitoring that chat, and then Daisy will be stopping periodically to answer questions. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat box, feel free to do so right now. And at any time, if you do have any questions, utilize the chat box and let me know, and I will do my best to address them before the end of the webinar today, okay? So let's break the ice with our first question of the day. And that question is, what's your favorite way to learn something new? All right, so in the chat box, go ahead and let me know. Is it A, B, C, or D? Think about the last time you learned something new and what made it exciting or memorable for you. Alexandra said C and D. All of these, okay, acceptable. See a lot of A's, B's, and C's, okay. All, Carla, I agree. A and C, okay. Okay, thank you guys for participating. A lot of mixed answers. And I'm sure if I were to pull this up into my classroom tomorrow and ask my students the question, I would be getting similar answers from them too. Either teacher, all of it, or like, you know, A or C or A and C, something like that. So that is good to see. I'm going to move on to the next question now. Imagine you get a free day. What fun topic would you pick to teach your class? Would it be like a hobby that you love, or a skill you're great at, or something unique or unexpected? What the class chose, okay? Interesting. Interesting. Very cool. All right. And we've got one more question. Uh, Picture this, right? You're feeling stuck. What's your go-to move for being more productive? Seeing a lot of C's, a detailed to-do list. I make a to-do list every morning. Even though I have my things on my calendar, I still have to make a physical paper pencil list and cross things off as I get them done throughout the day. So I get you. Tea. Okay, Paulette. I love green tea. With you on that one there. All right. Thank you all for participating. So now that we've broken the ice, let's dive into the heart of today's session. So here's what we'll explore together. First of all, some practical methods for teaching vocabulary and pronunciation. So basically, like what works and why, and also some interactive activities to strengthen foundational language skills. And I hope you all are ready to roll up your sleeves and get started because we are going to kick things off by diving into the what and the why first. Okay. So get your typing fingers ready again. What are some challenges that your adult ELLs face when it comes to learning English vocabulary and pronunciation? Okay, so you're going to let me know in the chat box what are some challenges that your students encounter with vocabulary and proper English pronunciation. Think about what you observed or experienced and what makes it tricky for your students and why do you think that is? Native language, opportunities to, where to place their tongue, silent letters. Absolutely. Multiple pronunciations for the same words. Yep. They love translating. Yes, Maureen, you're absolutely right. Confidence. Yes, Rob, I agree. Or lack thereof, perhaps, right? My student is from Vietnam, so she really cannot say some of her sounds. I have a couple of Vietnamese students in my class this term, Jane, and I know exactly what sounds you're talking about. All right, so adult English language learners, they face unique challenges in mastering vocabulary and pronunciation, which are key to effective communication, right? But vocabulary learning is often hindered by limited exposure to diverse contexts, difficulty with idioms and expressions, of course, and then the overwhelming amount of words needed for social and professional success. So that's for vocabulary, right? And then for pronunciation, on the other hand, pronunciation poses hurdles like unfamiliar sounds, mastering stress or intonation, and overcoming the fear of mistakes that limits speaking practice. And I know a lot of you've already gone ahead and put this information in the chat box, so that's great. But these challenges compound when learners must balance both areas, often with limited access to authentic resources and real world practice opportunities. All right, so recognizing these barriers can actually inspire teachers like you and I to craft innovative, supportive strategies that boost students' confidence and effectiveness. My next question to you is why? All right, why do you think teaching vocabulary and pronunciation is so important for our adult English language learners? Why is it important to teach them vocabulary and pronunciation? Think about how does this impact their communication or confidence or even everyday life, right? Yep, makes daily life easier. Absolutely. Confidence. Yep. To be understood by everyone. Those are some great answers in the chat box. Yep, to be able to communicate effectively with others. Absolutely. They will not be able to function in English. Yep, I agree. Opens the door to possibilities. Yep, as a foundation for language skill acquisition. Really good participation in the chat box. I am impressed. Good job, you guys. So some of you have already mentioned this in the chat, but vocabulary is the building block of language, right? So it helps learners understand and express themselves effectively. And pronunciation ensures clear communication, boosts confidence, and avoids misunderstandings. So thank you all for jotting some of those ideas in the chat box. All right, and here you're getting to see a few more things on the slide, the importance of vocabulary and pronunciation along with some examples. So teaching vocabulary and pronunciation to our students is essential as these skills form the foundation of effective communication and language proficiency. Vocabulary enables comprehension, expression, and cultural understanding, while pronunciation, on the other hand, ensures clear communication, it boosts confidence, and supports listening skills, right? Together, they enhance all language domains, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and empower our students to thrive socially, professionally, and academically. Now let's switch gears and focus on the how. So how do you approach teaching the essentials of vocabulary and pronunciation to adult English language learners? This, the question is, how do you teach vocabulary and pronunciation, really? Do you use games? Do you use like real life examples, repetition, or something else? What's worked best for you? Read aloud, discussion, and conversation. Okay. Cards and games. Yep, games are always a hit. Color coding of written lists. Very cool. I always try to model first. Yep, I agree with you. We always have to model any activity, any game, or anything that we do in the classroom before we hand it off to our students, right? So modeling is very essential. Hang new words. Okay. Practice conversation, print material. Positive reinforcement, always. Thank you, Susan, for adding that to the chat. Conversations with others. Good, good. Those are all great ideas. Repetition and writing the word out. Barton reading and spelling book 1 and 2. Okay. All right, so here's a quick summary of key vocabulary principles. All right, so first of all, you want to teach words in meaningful ways and connect them to learners' real life experiences, right? That's what you want to do, at least in the adult learning environment. Then you also want to incorporate visuals, audio, gestures, and real life objects to make learning engaging. So a lot of visuals, a lot of realia, okay? And reinforce vocabulary regularly to help it stick. So repetition and recycling, that's what that focuses on. And here's a quick summary of pronunciation principles. So you want to prioritize clear communication over perfection. Okay, that's a big one in my classroom at least. And then you also want to focus on teaching sounds, syllables, and word stress. And you want to highlight rhythm, intonation, and how words connect in speech. Okay, and now let's look at some student approved activities. Okay. So when I had my own classroom in the district, when I taught ESOL, I used to label all the classroom objects. Okay. So labeling classroom objects, I believe it is a highly effective strategy in lower level adult ESOL classrooms, helping students build essential vocabulary by associating words with everyday items in a practical and relevant way. And visual learners, they benefit from seeing the words in context, while tactile learners engage by interacting with the labeled items, right? So basically, it creates like a print-rich environment that fosters incidental learning, reinforces spelling, and boosts confidence through real-life application. Now, in the chat box, go ahead and let me know if you have ever labeled any of your classroom items, whether it's uh, the whiteboard at the front of the classroom or the door or the lights or the pencils or staplers? No, okay, and that's fine. Ooh, in several languages. Way to go, Paulette. Difficult on Zoom. Okay, so I'm assuming you teach online. Meeting online, we view mainly visual text and some photos. Okay. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier, when I used to teach ESOL in the district many, many years ago, and I had my own classroom and I taught a lower level class, I used to do this like since day one. And as they would come in, I would tell them, "Good morning, everyone. This is a whiteboard." And like by the end of like week one, they knew all of these different words. So I think it helps. And if you do have the luxury where you have your own classroom and you're not sharing it with anyone, I would highly recommend you try this out. Okay. All right. Now, as you all know, in a lower level class, using plenty of visuals can make vocabulary lessons more effective, right? So, for example, picture flashcards are a great tool to help students connect with the images. So, here is a quick visual you can use to introduce healthy and unhealthy foods to students while covering the topic of nutrition. Okay. And you can find flashcards online. You can buy flashcards at a Walmart or purchase them online on Amazon. And they really work with our visual learners. And after introducing the vocabulary, you can use worksheet like this one, and basically students can read the word and match it to the correct image. That's what they're doing here, right? And you can use this worksheet interactively by first introducing and reviewing the vocabulary, including definitions and pronunciation. And then you can explain the task of matching words to images, noting multiple meanings. Okay, model one example. I know someone already mentioned that in the chat box, but it's always a good idea to model at least one example before you let students practice individually or in pairs, right? Then you want to review answers together, encouraging explanations for matches. And and for extension, you can have students create sentences using the words or discuss alternative meanings to deepen understanding. Now that depends on the level that you teach, right? It may or may not work in a lower level class, but if you do teach an intermediate or an advanced level class, you can certainly take it to the next level. All right, so a lot you can do with a simple activity like this. So the next activity is called the substitution drill. Now, can you let me know in the chat box if you're familiar with this or not? Have you ever tried this or not, the substitution drill activity? I see a lot of no's in the chat box, which is great because that's what you're here for, right? Okay, so this activity is called the substitution drill. The substitution drill activity actually helps our students practice language structures by replacing a key word or phrase in a sentence with an alternative provided by the teacher. Okay, so this exercise basically reinforces sentence patterns, improves fluency, and enhances vocabulary usage. So students will respond quickly, which encourages active engagement and mastery of target language forms. All right, so let me give you an example. So basically, in a substitution drill, the teacher provides a base sentence, and students repeat it while substituting a specific word or phrase with a new one provided by the teacher. So let's say, for example, right, I like apples. And the students will repeat, I like apples. Then instead of saying a complete sentence, I'm only going to say bananas. And at this point, my students are going to say, I like bananas. Okay. So this continues with different substitutions, helping students practice sentence structures, vocabulary, and fluency. And from personal experience, I will tell you that the first time you do this, regardless of the level that you teach, start with simple sentences, all right? Just like I like apples. You want to start with simple sentences until students really understand how the activity works. All right, so let's actually go ahead and take a look at a sample. So I created this substitution drill activity worksheet, and this particular one focuses on jobs and workplaces. So students complete the sentences by substituting blank spaces with appropriate vocabulary based on context and visual clues provided in the images, right? So then your students will read each sentence, paying attention to the context and structure. They look at the accompanying images and use their knowledge of jobs and related vocabulary to fill in the blanks. So then they complete the sentences, right? So for example, a mail carrier delivers mail, or a bank teller works at a bank. And as an instructor, you may call on students to share their answers aloud, discuss why a certain word fits, or expand with additional details. For example, what else does a chef do? Okay, and this activity enhances vocabulary acquisition, sentence structure comprehension, and listening and speaking skills when discussed as a group. Okay, so all of these activities that I'm sharing with you today, you can easily modify them to best meet the needs of your students. Now, continuing with visuals, right? Now we're looking at synonyms and antonyms. So with these particular worksheets, you can start by introducing the key vocabulary from both the worksheets, and you can use the images to explain meanings and give examples and context. So step one would be the matching activity for students, okay? So ask students to draw the lines between the words and their synonyms using the pictures as visual aids, and same thing goes for the opposites worksheet. They're going to draw a line. Then step two, what you can do is you can pair students to complete the activities together, encouraging them to say the word aloud, discuss their choices, and explain their reasoning. And then step three, this is where pronunciation comes into play. So step three is going to be pronunciation practice. After matching, review the words as a class, focus on pronunciation and syllable stress for each word. Okay, you can also have students make real life connection. You can have them discuss how these words can be used in everyday situations. So let's say, for example, you can have them use the words heavy and light in a sentence about carrying groceries, or fast or slow when talking about driving. Okay, so to make it even more interactive, you can have students act out certain words like yell or pull or fast or tall. This really gets my students going. They absolutely love this part of the activity. And it also reinforces retention and builds confidence, right? So these simple activities combine visuals, matching, discussion, and real life context, making vocabulary learning engaging and practical. Okay. Now, next, I would focus on the parts of speech. All right. You are going to begin by explaining the importance of understanding the parts of speech and forming clear and meaningful sentences. And at first, you can only focus on like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. And this is just a recommendation based on how this activity works in my classroom. But as I mentioned earlier, you can modify it as needed. And you also want to use real life examples, right? So when you're telling them noun is a person, place, or a thing, point out some objects around the room, like the chair or the table. Okay. Verbs are action words, right? So sit, write, stand, yawn, those are all verbs. And then adjectives, you can point out something big in the classroom or something red in the classroom. Adverbs, you can provide them with examples like quickly or often. We just did frequency adverbs today in class, so often was one of them. So basically, you want to encourage students to give their own examples from each category as well, using items or actions they know or see in the classroom. Okay, now let's look at the table activity towards the top right corner of the screen. Okay, show the table with columns for noun, verb, adjective, and adverb. Okay, fill in the first row, again, model, right? So fill in the first row together as a class. So for example, book is your noun here, run is your verb, happy is the adjective, and quickly is the adverb. And then you can have your students work in groups. All right, you can divide the class into small groups and give them a set of words to categorize. And students can fill in their own tables while discussing and collaborating. And this is a perfect way to introduce the foundations of parts of speech to your students. Okay. Now, I have a question for you guys. How do you introduce parts of speech in your lessons, like to your students? What is it that you do? And straight is an adverb and adjective. Okay. In sentences, okay. Crossword puzzles. Interesting. I may have to look into that. Thank you, David. Yes, tricks like ly endings. Agree with you on that one, Susan. Word relationships, full endings, yep. Good, 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 good. So once I've gone over that information, I do this activity called what does it mean, right? So this is an activity for additional vocabulary practice. Introduce this activity by first explaining how it helps deeply understand words, then model it with a familiar example. Okay, again, model, model, model. Students collaborate in pairs or groups to fill out the chart for assigned words using dictionaries as needed. They don't have to use one. Okay, and they share and discuss their work with the class, clarifying any confusion. Okay, so for individual practice, students complete their own charts, and as an extension, they can use their words in stories or conversations. Okay, so basically, this approach combines group work, individual practice, and creative application to make vocabulary learning engaging and practical. And this presentation will be shared with you, so you can certainly go ahead and use this particular worksheet that you see, or if you want to, create one of your own, you can do that. Or if you simply want to Google it, I'm sure you'll find one online as well. Okay. Susan said in the chat box, I like to draw a picture of the word. That's an excellent idea. And I have seen some of my colleagues that do that. So thank you for sharing that, Susan. All right, so let me share a quick activity that I often do with my students to help them practice vocabulary. So Quizlet has been around a while, right? And we frequently use Quizlet, which is like a digital set of flashcards students can use to study. So there are many pre-made sets available. So I'll sometimes just find a set related to our lessons and use it to review vocabulary words together as a class before a quiz or a test. All right. So for example, in our district, many ESOL teachers use the standout curriculum. And I found a sample Quizlet set for Standout 3. That was a book that I used to use when I was in the classroom. And I did not create this, okay? But it's a great resource, and I'm going to go ahead and show it to you in just a second. But what I like to do is go through the vocabulary as a class and then discuss the meanings and give students opportunities to practice using the words. Okay, so let me exit here real quick. So this is Quizlet.com. And like I said, it's basically like a flashcard, a set of flashcards. You can create your own using a free account, or there are so many sets already available. One thing I will recommend is that before you use this, you obviously want to review everything to ensure the spellings are correct, the meanings are correct, so on and so forth. Okay, just like anything else that we project in the classroom. So review it ahead of time. Okay, so that is Quizlet. And once you log in with your free account, you have access to more resources, of course. Stacy has a question. Is Quizlet printable? I have never used Quizlet flashcards where I had to print them and all. But if I'm not mistaken, they are printable. You can easily print them and use them in the classroom. And I think Susan just confirmed it in the chat box. Yes, it is. So Stacy, yes, printable. And there are other activities too. It's not just flashcards, right? You have a test, you have a matching activity. It's very interactive, and you can maybe have one student at a time come up to the front of the board and use the computer to do the matching activity or something like that to make it even more interactive. And what I like to do after we've gone over this, I assess their understanding, right? So sometimes I'll use a traditional paper test, but other times I'll make it more interactive with a formative assessment tool like Kahoot or Gimkit or Bookit. Now, this keeps learning engaging and helps me see where they need more support too, right? Because I'm collecting real-time data here. And one thing I'm going to highlight here is that one thing I like about Kahoot is the wide selection of pre-made Kahoots that are available for almost any topic that you're teaching, right? And you can copy them, you can easily modify them. But again, just be sure to review them before using them in class, okay? As I have occasionally spotted a few errors here and there with these Kahoots. And the best part is if you're using like Standout curriculum or Ventures curriculum or Burlington English, there are pre-made Kahoots aligned with the units from these different sets of curriculum. You can easily copy, customize, and use them to create a fun and engaging learning environment. So as you can see, I'm logged into Kahoot with my free account right now, and I simply did a search called Standout Unit, okay? And I clicked on all to make sure I see everything that's available. And as you can see, there's a Standout Review Book 1 Unit 2 quiz available right here. Now, if I were using that textbook, I could simply click on it, look at the questions, right? Make sure everything is correct. And if it is, as soon as my students walk in, I can click on host live and go ahead and get the game started, because this would be a good way to wake them up as they're walking into the classroom first thing in the morning and activate prior knowledge. Or after you've gone over the information, right, like the flashcards and all, you can assess their knowledge of understanding and all after the lesson towards the end. So Kahoot, again, like I mentioned, if you do a simple search here using the textbook or the curriculum that you use in your district or counties, you should be able to find some pre-made Kahoots there. Okay. And it is quite user-friendly. If you want to create your own, you can certainly do that too. So that's that. Next up is the sound tuning game. How many of you know of this game or have actually used it in the classroom to teach vocabulary or pronunciation? Okay. And that's fine. So if you have not used it, it's totally okay. Here's how to use the sound tuning game. And first of all, you want to introduce the activity to the students, right? So hold up a puzzle piece and ask, what do you see here? Can you guess what it connects to? Those are some of the questions you want to ask them. Then explain that students will match puzzle pieces to form compound words. So for example, let's see, on the screen we see bird plus house, that makes a bird house, okay? So by combining the pictures. And then you can divide the class into small groups or pairs, providing each with a set of puzzle pieces, and students will find the matching pieces by figuring out how the pictures and words connect. Once matched, they form the compound word and say it out loud. Okay. You can also add probing questions. After creating a word, you can ask the group, like, let's see, can you name this? Or how do you use it? Or where would you find this? Can you tell me a story about this? You can also turn this into a game of charades. Think about it. So basically encourage them to use complete sentences and share their thoughts in English, right? You want to turn it into a friendly competition. You can do that too. Award points for correct matches, clear explanations, or creative stories about the words. And this interactive approach engages learners in vocabulary building, speaking practice, and collaborative problem solving while keeping it fun and hands-on. Okay, so that is sound tuning game. You can buy one online on Amazon, or hey, reach out to your administrator. Tell them like, I want this for my classroom. Okay. All right, now we are going to look at a brand new unit. Okay, so when introducing a new unit, I often use the cover of the unit as a picture prompt and ask my students the W and H questions. And this is basically to activate their prior knowledge and engage them with the topic. Okay, and once I've gone ahead and done that, I also like to use the KWL chart, but the vocabulary edition KWL chart. Okay. Now, this may or may not work with a lower level class, but at least you get an idea of how to use something like this. So with a KWL vocabulary chart, it can be effectively used in an adult learning environment to encourage active engagement with vocabulary acquisition and reflection. All right, so let's say before the lesson, go ahead and introduce the topic and have your students fill out the first two columns. In the what are 5 to 10 words I know column, ask students to brainstorm and write words they already associate with that particular topic. Okay. And in the what are 5 to 10 words I want to know, in that column, you can ask your students to write words they're curious about or would like to understand better. And you can also, for that particular column, have them skim through the chapter real quick, okay? And then they can add more to that column. And then during the lesson, as new vocabulary is introduced or discussed, your students can take note of unfamiliar words they encounter. And after the lesson, in the what words did I learn today, in that section, have students reflect on and list new vocabulary they learned during the session. They can use their notes, discussions, or instructional materials as a reference, okay? So again, it's this, when the presentation is shared with you, you will have access to this chart. Feel free to use it. And it works in my classroom. This activity promotes prior knowledge activation, goal setting, and reflection to enhance vocabulary retention. And it is effective for ESL students for like technical training or any subject requiring mastery of new terms. Okay, so that's the KWL chart. Next up, I am going to share a chart, another chart that I use in my classroom actually on a daily basis to help students with pronunciation. The color vowel chart. How many of you are familiar with this? Or have used it before? Or are using it now, this term? All right, so I hadn't used it until I started teaching at the university either. But this is part of the curriculum, and like I said, I use it on a daily basis now. So the color vowel chart is a visual tool that links vowel sounds to colors and keywords, helping students improve pronunciation, listening, and spelling. It can be used to practice vowel sounds, applying them to vocabulary, correct pronunciation, and engage students in interactive activities for enhanced learning. So the color vowels, it is a system that simplifies English pronunciation by associating vowel sounds with colors and phrases, focusing on sounds instead of spelling. All right. So each color phrase, it represents a stressed vowel sound, making it easier for learners to identify and pronounce words. So let's see. For example, there are a couple examples right here, right? So teacher and people are green TE because it's teacher and people, okay? While students and true are blue moon words, okay? So this approach enhances pronunciation and listening skills for our English language learners. And this particular organizer is an interactive tool that helps students group vocabulary by vowel sounds instead of spelling. So students identify the stress vowel sounds in words, sort them into corresponding sections. So for example, the word trip. Trip is a silver pin trip. The word sit. Sit is a silver pin sit. Now the word seat is a green tea seat. Okay. So again, you're basically helping them practice pronunciation, and the organizer improves awareness of vowel sounds, pronunciation, and vocabulary retention. And I see some good discussion in the chat box. Susan and Faye, you're right. You know, depending on where you live in the United States, dog and sock are different to some. I agree. It depends on the accents and all of that too. But basically, my students fill one of these out while I'm introducing the vocabulary words of a specific unit. And then we practice pronouncing them correctly, and we focus on the definitions as well. Okay, so that's the color vowel organizer. And there are several free games available online. If you just want to try it out, you can simply Google Color Wow Game Room. I think I have it open. I'll go ahead and share this link in the chat box with you so you have it available. But basically, there are a lot of games available that you can have your students play, like on a computer, or you can print these out for the students to do work on individually or in pairs, or even do some group work. Okay. All right. And once I have gone over the words and they've, filled out the organizer and all of that, I also focus on definitions and of course the pronunciation. But then what I do is I go ahead and project images one at a time and have students guess the word, right? So basically they would see a picture on the screen and they have to tell me what the word is. And these words were just covered, right? We just did the vocabulary and the organizer activity. So can someone please tell me that picture to the left? What word comes to mind? And I can go back here. Look at the vocabulary list here. We have area, cheap, downtown, expensive, local, noisy, and quiet. Those are all great answers. Some people are saying in the chat box, shopping, shopping cart, Benjamin's. Yes, those are all good answers if you were using this as a picture prompt, right, to get your students to start thinking and talking. But here the question is, they have to connect it to the vocabulary words that I had just gone over. So based on the list of words that you see on your screen right now, what do you think that picture represents? Let's see. Miss Chalker, Marissa Chalker, Palm Beach County represent. Yes, expensive is the word. Thank you all. Everyone is now saying expensive. You are absolutely right. Expensive is the word for the image on the left side of the screen. What about the one on the right? I'm going to go back. What do you think that image represents? Yes, Jane. Thank you. Downtown. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everyone. Yes, so the picture on the right is downtown. This is actually from downtown West Palm Beach. Okay, so the picture on the left is expensive. The picture on the right is downtown. But it really gets them to think, and sometimes they'll just blurt out like incorrect answers, and their classmates will giggle or laugh or whatever. But it's quite simple. You just go in and, project a picture, and they have to guess the word. Yes, Dawn, downtown can be expensive. Yep. That's right. And after you've done that, right, you can have them write the words and come up with complete sentences. All right. So to further ensure that they understand the word and how to use it correctly in a sentence, I use this worksheet. So the word and sentence chart worksheet helps adult learners build vocabulary and practice sentence construction by recording key words and creating sentences with proper grammar and context. It supports collaborative learning, reinforces understanding, and it serves as a reference for discussions, writing tasks, and quizzes. This tool encourages vocabulary retention, improves sentence building skills, and again, reinforces the connections between words and their real life usage. Now, you can create one of your own. I'm sure you can find a worksheet like this online. If you want to add like a definition column to this, you can certainly do that as well. But it gives you an idea on how this works and how to actually, use this in the classroom. So let's see. Now we are talking about the unit of weather and climate. Okay, so I did my thing day one. On the next day, I make them review in a more fun way the vocabulary words here, okay? So I will basically go over the vocabulary words again with them, okay? And we would review words like lightning and thunder and sunny and warm, so on and so forth. And then I have them work in pairs for the next part. So this is how that looks. Now students will engage in a guessing game in pairs. All right, so you have two students, student A and student B. So student A will state the part of speech and read the definition of a word, and student B has to listen carefully and try to guess the correct word based on the clues that were provided. Okay, and this activity encourages vocabulary recall and reinforces understanding of word meanings in a fun and interactive way. So here is an example. Imagine that I am student A and you are student B. And I tell you that the word you are to guess is a noun, and the definition is sudden loud noise that comes after a flash of lightning. Now you have to tell me what this word is. Any guesses? Sandy, you beat me to it. Yes, you're absolutely right. Thunder. Okay. So the word is thunder. All right. And what I have them do is if I assign them with 10 words, student A will focus on stating, that this is a noun or the parts of speech, and they would also then read the definition for the first 5 words. Then they switch roles. Student B then becomes student A, so they both get to practice. So that was thunder. Now, how many of you have seen this commercial before? So sometimes when I'm watching TV or just scrolling through social media, and if I find something that I know I can use in my classroom, you best believe it, I go ahead and save it. And this commercial right here, it's a State Farm commercial. I'm actually going to go ahead and play it for you. When I saw it, I'm like, ooh, I can totally use this in my classroom. And I'm not going to tell you why. I'm going to have you watch it and you tell me why I would have saved it and projected this in the classroom and how you would use this in your classrooms. Okay. So let's
call you back. Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there.
What a day.
With car insurance for when things go wrong,
What a day!
but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Call you back.
All right, so now that you've seen the commercial, go ahead and tell me how you would use this in the classroom and what is something you would ask your students to focus on while they're watching this. Great answers in the chat box. Yep. Uh-huh. Meaning of words can change with context, intonation, possessive pronouns, multiple uses of the same word or emotion. Uh-huh. Yep, and you know what, folks? That is exactly why I went ahead and saved it, and I've been using it ever since. So to effectively use the State Farm commercial, it's actually called State Farm Commercial 2016 Jacked Up. Okay, so in an adult learning environment for teaching vocabulary and pronunciation to my students, I start by introducing key vocabulary and engaging students with predictive questions. You can show them the video multiple times, focusing first on general understanding, then on vocabulary context and usage, and finally on pronunciation. Okay. Follow up with activities like matching exercises or fill in the blank tasks and role playing to reinforce learning. Extend the lesson with discussion or writing prompts comparing advertisements across cultures, and conclude with a reflection on applying new vocabulary and pronunciation skills in real life situations. This interactive approach leverages the humor of the commercial for effective language learning. Okay, now for something like this, if you know how to use ChatGPT, you can simply copy and paste the link in there and ask it to create a worksheet for you depending on the level that you teach. You want to be very specific with your prompt, and it will go ahead and do it for you. It will create a full-on worksheet for you in a matter of seconds. And of course, you can then, save it as a Word document and modify it if you need to. But yeah, that's YouTube right there for you. Free resources, free resources. All right, so next up, I have a couple more things to share with you. How many of you are familiar with McGraw-Hill's Language Lab? All right, I'm going to go ahead and add this link in the chat box so you can click on it and explore this with me. So with the Language Lab, basically once you get to this page, you're going to select English ESL. So go ahead and click on that. When you do that, there are several different activities that become available, including English vocabulary for beginning ESL learners at the bottom once you scroll down. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So there are progress checks available on this website. So let's go ahead and start with the nouns and people and places. Okay, so who is this family member? Mother's sister. Okay, and they would have to answer the question. And this is just one of the many activities that are available. I'm also going to go ahead and show you the audio part of it. People and places. So exercise 1. So the students would actually record themselves here. Okay, so to complete the sentence, and they can hear the recording. And this, what I'm showing you right now is just for vocabulary, but as you can see, once I go back here, there's a lot more. There's grammar, basic English, more grammar drills, English pronunciation here.
Team, theme.
So the students get to hear the words, right?
Tank, thank.
Tank and thank. So this is absolutely free. Feel free to check it out whenever you get a chance. It is called McGraw-Hill Language Lab. Okay. The other one is called USA Learns. And I'm going to go ahead and share this with you in the chat box as well. And USA Learns is also available for free. Your students can actually create a free account and it will track and monitor their progress. And this particular website has a lot of resources, but it also has an English pronunciation page. So it kind of explains to the student why is English pronunciation important. And once you scroll down even more, there are several activities that your students can do on this free website. Okay, and with some of these activities, I like to do them in class, and some I will just have them work individually on their Chromebooks or laptops using this website. Okay, and that is USA Learns. And as you can see, they do have the opportunity to listen to a word, record it, re-record it if they need to. And like I mentioned, once they create a free account, it will all save their progress. Okay. Going back to the presentation. So basically over the next couple slides, I am just going to be sharing some additional ideas with you. So error correction strategies, right? So during an activity, you want to listen for errors and decide whether to correct immediately or note them for later review. I personally do not like to correct them right away because it just, it's going to discourage them from speaking. So you want to be mindful of that. And when correcting, use guiding questions like, does that sentence sound right to you? Okay. And after group work, review common errors with the class, focusing on patterns rather than individual mistakes. You also want to reinforce correct responses with encouragement to ensure students feel supported in their learning. So a quick bravo, like good job, thumbs up, whatever works for you. Okay, a high five. And this approach helps balance fluency, accuracy, and learner confidence in an engaging way. Next, I've got some scaffolding techniques. And you want to demonstrate tasks or concepts first to provide a clear example for your students. Okay, so that's step one. Then work through activities together, offering prompts and assistance as needed. Then you want to incorporate charts, pictures, or realia to simplify complex ideas. Then go ahead and slowly reduce support as learners gain confidence, encouraging independence. All right. And these techniques will build confidence and understanding by progressively guiding learners to success. Now, on this slide, I've got some interactive activities for you. Word matching, like match words with their definitions or images to reinforce understanding. Okay, charades is another one that I like to use a lot in my classroom, where your students would act out words to encourage creative thinking and recall. Word sorts, so you can categorize words into groups, examples, synonyms, and antonyms that we went over earlier today. And you also want to use vocabulary in conversations to practice real world application. And these activities engage our students, actively making vocabulary learning fun and practical. Okay. Now, as far as pronunciation is concerned, you want to focus on similar sounds. So for example, ship and sheep to improve clarity. A lot of my colleagues, they like to use tongue twisters in the classroom. So you can use fun phrases to practice challenging sounds and rhythm. Role playing, you can engage in dialogues to practice intonation and natural speech patterns. And repeat words or phrases together to build confidence and fluency. And all of these activities listed here will make pronunciation practice engaging and help learners develop clearer, more natural speech. And I know you're all professionals, but here are some additional practical tips for success in teaching, right? So first of all, set clear goals. Define learning objectives to keep lessons focused and purposeful. Second, of course, we're teaching a new language here, so we have to be patient. Allow learners time to process and practice new concepts. You want to encourage participation. So you want to foster a supportive environment where students feel comfortable engaging. And you want to incorporate diverse activities to suit different learning styles, right? And these tips will ensure effective and engaging instruction that supports student growth. All right, we are getting ready to wrap up here soon. So in the chat box, share your thoughts. So go ahead and read the quote on the screen and let me know if you agree with that or don't agree with that, or what your thoughts are about this. Agree, love it, okay. Right, uh-huh. So, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because every day in my class, I either use a quote of the day or an idiom of the day, right? So I figured when I saw this that I would use it for this session. It's perfect, and it is absolutely true. And if you disagree with me, then I'm sorry. We cannot be friends. But the good thing is everyone's saying they agree with it, so that's cool. We're all friends here. So with that, I just want to say you are all rock star teachers. Thank you for all you do. And again, thank you for joining me this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the day and do not hesitate to reach out if you have a question or if you simply want to say hello. Okay, and I believe I am now going to turn it over to Greg real quick for the evaluation.
So if you can go ahead, Stephanie, and post the evaluation in there. Are there any questions for Daisy before we wrap up? You can unmute yourself if you'd like. So if you can please take a minute to complete the session evaluation, we'd appreciate that. Stephanie just posted it. And thank you, Daisy, for this. This was a very informative session, gave us lots to think about and a lot of good strategies to apply in the classroom. So we appreciate that.
There was a question that came in through the chat. How do you
Okay.
suggest one-on-one classrooms use these skills?
I'm sorry, what was it? How do you suggest one-on-one classroom use these skills?
Probably a one-to-one tutoring versus a
Yeah.
classroom.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Again, like I said, I usually, I mean, I do not tutor, so like I do not work with my students one-on-one. I've tried these activities like, you know, in a regular classroom setting. But if you think about it, everything that I shared today, you can easily modify them except for the group work or the working in pairs, right? Everything can be done individually in a small like tutoring setting.
Okay.
A lot is easily applicable in a tutoring session. Yes, Rob, thank you.
Faye mentioned earlier that USA Learns was a good resource, but some of the audio is pretty fast. Not necessarily in the lessons, but in the introductions, the speech is pretty fast. Do you have any recommendations on slowing that down, or another resource that might be a little bit slower?
Another resource. Let me think. Oh, let me pull it up. See if I can do
And
this.
while you're pulling that up, this is Faye. Yes, I've searched the website because I have a couple of my students who definitely have enough English to understand the USA lessons, and I think they're great. But they were so intimidated by the very first recordings of just general welcoming instructions. And I tried and tried and tried to find some way to even just slow the audio down because most audios have that option. But I was not successful, and I haven't gotten them to get brave enough to go beyond that. Just, well, don't worry about it. Just go to the next part.
I am actually looking to, let me see if I can bring this up. So some of the other activities or websites perhaps that I've used, one of them is called englishclub.com. Let me show that to you. English Club. And this one is absolutely free as well. And as you can see up top, they've got grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, listening, speaking, all of these different activities. A lot of different topics here. I know they have an online dictation section as well. And with that online dictation section, you can actually, hold on, I can bring this up here. Control the speed of the audio. And that is englishclub.com. And as you can see, it's right here. Listen again at slow speed and write what you hear. So they listen to it at a normal speed first, then they listen again at slow speed, and then they have to write the sentences that they hear. So this particular website does provide you with that option of slowing the audio down a little bit for listening and dictation activities.
And Paulette mentioned that you can go to the settings, the speed settings too. I'm not sure any other resource if that was available in the USA Learns. Another question we had here was, do you think it's useful to teach the phonetic alphabet?
It depends on what level you teach. I'm just gonna leave it at that, right? I mean, it never hurts, but you don't want to be doing that in an advanced level classroom either. So.
Understand. Anybody else, if you have any final questions, if you'd like to unmute or drop them in the chat, we will be sending the slides and any resources over to you guys, as well as putting this video into a YouTube link, so that way you'll be able to refresh your memory and look back on it if you'd like.
And if any of you joined us a little bit late, we mentioned the Florida Literacy Conference. I included the link again. We'd love to see you there. It's May 13th through 15th. We're going to be over at Daytona Beach at the Shores Resort. And if you're interested in presenting, we've extended our call for presenters, the same link. We'd welcome your presentation proposal. Okay, so with that, thanks again, Daisy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you
Y'all
for
have a
having
great
me.
afternoon.
Appreciate your time. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.